Welcome to this month's installment of G.A.S Attacks. Today I'm looking at a particular use case of guitar modeling versus the real deal in a band situation. Let's get started! Before we get into specifics, here's the background of the situation. I've been playing guitar in my good friend Rob's project since 2018. The band is called Devilbots and it's Rob's creation and vision. The music is fun to play, all the other musicians are friends and awesome to play with, and honestly, it's fun to be in a situation where you're not in the driver's seat, so to speak. Since 2019, I've been using some sort of Fractal Audio Systems product in this band, starting with the FX8, and then the FM3, and then finally the FM9. To be honest, ever since I ditched a tube amp in this group, a Rivera K7, I have not been completely happy with my tone. The Fractal products all have many positive features, but since I stopped using the tube head after the FX8, the other guitarist Noah has a tone that sounds so much better than mine. I tried using the FM3 and FM9 with a Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170 and then a Fryette LXII. Still, my tone was bassy, muffled, and anemic compared to Noah's. What was Noah's secret? Well, besides being a monster player, the mighty Mesa Dual Rectifier. Even through an old 90s Fender M80 4x12, his tone is huge and crushing. My FM9 sounds, well, not good in comparison, even through my Fryette LXII. However, the effects and flexibility of the FM9 cannot be beat. I never want to return to being a tap dancer again, so what to do? I have put 3 setups together for testing. The Mesa, the FM9, and a hybrid setup using a Synergy SYN-2, FM3, and a Fryette LXII. Let's check out each setup and see what's up. For this demo, all 3 setups are going into a Fryette IR loader to ensure that mic placement does not affect the sound and no post-processing was done to any of the clips. Granted, the amp used in the FM9 preset and the hybrid model is not a Mesa model, so we're not trying to get the same sound as the Dual Rec, just a killer tone. I captured this Devilbots riff as a DI and then reamped the performance to each rig. The IR is a Fryette fat bottom cab with an Eminence P50 speaker, mic'd with an SM57. Here we go! This is my rectifier. Same year as Noah's, the same power amp tubes installed. The FM9 has power amp modeling active, and since the output to the power amp bypasses the cab block, cabinet modeling is still active for front of house. The LX2 is a neutral power amp, so this should be okay. The LX2 is set to neutral mode. In the FM9 amp block, look at output mode. Changing this to SS power plus cab is recommended in the manual. Does this make any difference? What do you think? In last month's episode of G.A.S Attacks, I discussed how I set up a hybrid rig using my Synergy SYN-2 with a slow 2 and Pitbull Ultralead module in the 4-cable method with my Fractal FM3. This setup is going through the LX2 with the same settings as the FM9. how does it sound in comparison to the dual rectifier in the FM9? I am fortunate to have options when it comes to resolving my tone issues in the DevilBots, and the ability to A/B my options outside of rehearsal. While not completely identical tones were created by each option, which isn't really the point, which one is the best for my situation? Well, I could use my Mesa in the 4-cable method with my FM3, but that would require a lot of setup at gigs, where there often isn't much time between bands, and certainly no time for troubleshooting issues with the more complex 4-cable method setup. The FM9 provides the best ease of use and effects when I'm using the Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170, but how does it really sound next to the dual rec? Is the SYN-2 FM3 hybrid the best? It offers the flexibility of a modeler with the 2-punch of analog, but the rack is really heavy, and the SYN-2 knobs are way too easy to bump. Once I have it dialed in, I will be putting a security cover over the SYN-2 to ensure that they do not move. Here's one last clip of the 3 setups, including the solid state cab and FFR settings in the FM9. Which one sounds the best to you? Well, after listening to the different setups, which one do I like best? Honestly, I think the hybrid is pretty cool, but it does have some drawbacks in terms of weight. The FM9, I tweaked a little bit more before I did this test, and I found myself surprised that it's a lot closer to being a good tone with that Mesa than I thought originally. Cost-wise, the different rigs come in at pretty different price points. Since you can't purchase a new dual rec rectifier, the closest you can get is a Mesa Badlander, which is $2,559 online. Of course you need the FM3, which is around $1,100 with shipping, and the rack and various connectors for a total of $4,273.40. That's not including the FC12 foot controller or expression pedals, which adds another $1,029.97 for a grand total of $5,303.37. The FM9, without a pedal board, but with the Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170 and expression pedals, is $2,477.98. That's still expensive, but you don't need to sell a kidney to get this setup. The hybrid setup, including the Synergy, rack components, FM3, and an FC12 and 2 expression pedals, is $4,600.37. Please let me know your thoughts on how well modelers work in situations with high gain tube amps. That wraps up this episode of Gas Attacks. Until next time. If you like this content, please like it, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. Every month I have a new Gas Attacks segment where I talk about gear that I use my own money to buy and whether I feel it was worth it or not. My channel has other videos with riff playthroughs, cool things that are not necessarily music related, and every month there's a new video for an original song, and once a quarter a video for a cover song. My music is also on all streaming services under Tove Anderson.